Hey guys, I'm Kim Lee, the founder and CEO of Forge, and we are so glad that you have joined us today. We are here with Rebecca Dobrinski from Red Thread Consulting from Tech Birmingham. Rebecca does a whole host of different things. I can't even name them all. She is a coach. She was a huge volunteer with TEDx, all these things. So we're so excited that she is sharing one of her specialties here with us today about time management. But I just wanted to first say, thank y'all so much for joining us. I know there is so much information out there. There are so many Zoom meetings, webinars, so many sources of content out there. And so as Forge, we just really wanted to be able to provide relevant content that will help you where you are at home dealing with the situation, but also that's really going to help you propel your business forward. So what you can do now to really grow and prepare your business and yourself for when we enter back into our new normal. And the funny thing, I posted this on Instagram the other day, we actually already had this lunch and learn with Rebecca scheduled before all of this happened. And so now this webinar of time management 101 is so timely for entrepreneurs who might be starting at home, but also for everybody else who now is having to figure out a completely different way to work. So thank y'all for joining us. I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca. So the format for today is Rebecca she has some slides that she's going to share with us that I got a sneak peek and they're amazing. So get ready to take notes. But, and then we're going to have a time for Q&A. So be sure to ask us questions and we will get to them at the end. But also please use the chat to introduce yourself, tell us where you are, what you do. That'll also help us know who we're talking to and the relevant information that we need to share with y'all. So thank you so much for joining us. And Rebecca, thank you most of all.
Thank you so much for that great introduction, Kim. So I'm going to start with sharing my screen, and we are going to go here. Oh. It bounced off the side of my screen. So I like to talk about time management with this. And just basically say, hi, I'm Rebecca Dobrinski of Red Thread Consulting, and I am a planner junkie. I love a good planner. I love a great notebook. I love a calendar app, and I love a to-do list. I definitely don't want to think about all the money that I've spent over the years on time management classes and planners and books and apps. If you've seen it, I've probably tried it at some point, and I get excited to see what I can do with a new tool. So I just want to tackle all the projects and get in there and love a shiny new thing. I very much squirrel. It's like, ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? My poor Instagram feed. So throughout all this though, I had a bit of an epiphany during my co-starters class in 2018. It was one of those, how do I know how much time I have to devote to a project if I don't know how I'm spending my time? So what started as this short-term project ended up changing everything about how I look at time management. So for about 4.5 months, I looked at how I was spending my time. I was actually counting it. Then I finished the year tracking my time. Sorry, I lost my place. I adjusted the process and I was looking at how I was working. Then I continued it into the next year. And almost 2 years later, I am still tracking my time the same exact way. Because, as most of us know, we can't establish a baseline or track progress without the data. And without data, we don't know when to pivot. We don't know how to improve. We don't know what's working, what's not working. And we don't know what we should change, why we should change it, or when we need help. So once I started tracking all this time and all the tools I've considered used and discarded or discounted, they all suddenly made sense. And then I realized I didn't need new tools to get this done. I was using the tools I already had and not buying new ones. I did, however, buy a new planner. I will admit that. So as an Apple user, I started using iCal. Now, iCal goes from your watch to your phone to your Mac, and it's been a lifesaver for me. I have been diving into the different capabilities as I start using it more. It tracks information. it tracks URLs, it tracks notes, it tracks meeting attendees, all of it. And then I started using it to track the actual data, how much time I was spending. And then I pulled up Excel, because who doesn't love a good spreadsheet, and created something relatively simple. It's got some crazy long equations in it, but it works and it calculates things and I don't have to worry about it. So what does this look like? So I think it looks the same whether you're tracking contract projects, side hustles, and volunteer work, or internal projects, or the myriad other things that happen throughout the day. It's all about tracking the things you do, the things that happen, and the things that alleviate stress. So as you can see, my buckets are my day job, my contract work, my side hustles, and my volunteer work. But I also have life buckets that I want to pay attention to: wellness, education, personal things, and friends and family. So those are the things that make me not be so stressed, for example. And they also make me make sure that I'm taking care of myself. So these are also split in my tracking spreadsheet. Especially, I didn't start tracking the life buckets at first. And like I said, why do this? Because there are things that make you not go insane from working all the time. If you're wondering how I came up with these four, it was education being a really big priority for me. And that's reading, that's taking classes, it's going to lectures. When I start feeling lonely or isolated, I'll look at my calendar and realize I haven't seen my friends all week. So now I know, hey, I need to reach out to somebody and get that kind of social time taken care of and into my calendar. And then I needed to block out time for things like doctor's appointments, errands, and the general taking care of the things that take care of me. So the commonality for everyone is the two main buckets. We have work and we have life. And no, these will never balance. And I mean never. Work-life balance is a myth. What you have to learn to balance is time and how you spend it, kind of like balancing your checkbook of priorities. And they aren't really equations either. You're not looking to make sure your work week adds up to a certain number of hours, or your work plus life plus sleep equals 24 hours a day. And it's okay to have blank space on your calendar too. In fact, you probably should. You should have time you're not dedicating to something. It's okay to be bored. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to play games on your phone occasionally. I have to say occasionally because I have to remind myself of that. And it's okay to, Netflix and chill. But if your goal is to spend quality time with someone, maybe your Netflix and chill happens to be your date night, and you should probably put it on there. And so you can schedule it and make sure you're spending that quality time. So the first step is to determine your buckets. What goes into work and what goes into life. So mine are generic, and so are these, and they can fit or be slightly adjusted depending on how you're spending your time. However, it's not just entrepreneurs. As you can see here, the same concept can be adapted for someone with a 40-ish hour work week, projects, supervisor duties, recruitment, volunteer work. Maybe your life is health and exercise, or kids and family activities, your personal stuff, or your hobbies. Yours might only have three things, work, side hustle, and volunteer. And I always keep volunteering under work because volunteering is work. But maybe it's only two. Maybe you just want to track the time you're working on your job stuff and you're volunteering. You could just track work. It's entirely up to you. So that's what I like about what I've done is every time I decide to add something or move things around, it becomes completely adaptable. So here's how I determined what are in my buckets. My day job is the salaried position I hold that basically pays my bills and provides things like insurance and benefits. My contract work is longstanding projects that I do regularly. My side hustles are either new things I'm doing. I may not always get paid for them, but I consider them more serious than volunteer projects, or stuff that I'm investing time in now that could also end up being more of a paid gig in the future. And then volunteer work. So this includes random volunteering. As a lot of folks know about me, I will spend 3 to 6 hours every Christmas wrangling the Coca-Cola bear at the Alabama Theater during the Christmas movies. But I also take on leadership roles in other organizations that I do volunteer my time with. So I try and keep those balanced and keep track of everything. So whether you have one or all of these things, you can fill these with all your different projects on top of your buckets. So it's kind of a layer, as Shrek says, like an onion. So my day job, only one thing fills this bucket, and they're all one color. So everything having to do with my day job is a single color. So my contract work are all the same color, but I note it on the calendar with the name of the organization or the contract. The side hustle, again, same color, but the project's noted. And volunteers, mostly all one color. There is a particular project that's kind of like a job into itself, so it gets its own color. So how do I start? Well, this is actually my calendar for this week. And my week starts with scheduled meetings and time blocks. This way I know when I'm committed to be somewhere or have set up a specific time to complete a project. And once you've determined items and colors, you kind of list the projects that go into each bucket. So day job, meetings, events, projects that need to be tracked individually, general work time, you know, company A, B, and C for your contracts and your side hustles, you know, your volunteer work. I do split them between, like I said, general volunteer hours and recurring projects. So what happens if something comes up in the middle of your time block? So everyone looks at my calendar and my finished calendar pages like this and has a heart attack and asks me how I can do everything all at once. So, you know, something comes up in the middle of what you're doing. It's a call, a panic Slack message. Do you go back to what you were doing, or do you drop everything to do something? What does that look like? So I've found it best to track things in 15-minute increments. So whether you're billing hourly or not, it's easiest when you're using color blocks to show these transitions. And no matter how short a call or a quick message, it takes some time for your brain to go back to what you were doing. Therefore, a 5-minute call will probably cost you 10 to 15 minutes of lost focus on what you were doing before you answered the phone. So is it bad to take calls like this? No, and usually it's probably pretty unavoidable. But you do need to be honest with yourself while you're tracking your time. For example, let's say you blocked off your Monday afternoon to wrap up a project. However, you ended up getting 2 phone calls and an urgent Slack message about 3 other projects that you're working on. Although you could deal with these quickly, the 3 hours you blocked off have now turned into 2 hours and 15 minutes of focused time. You wanted to have it done by 4, and now you have a choice. Do you work on it for another 45 minutes, or do you block off 45 minutes tomorrow morning to finish it? What if your client or supervisor calls and asks the status of, why isn't this already done? Well, now you have the data to say, I knew it would take about 3 hours to get this project done, but I ended up having to take calls from client A, client B, and coworker C, which could not be ignored. So you now have the information to say, I've got about 45 minutes left and should have it wrapped by the end of the day, or I can wrap this up before our 9 o'clock meeting tomorrow morning, which of course sounds better than I've been getting interrupted all afternoon and I can't get anything done. And especially because then your boss or client thinks you're also talking about them being the ones to interrupt you. So this data will give you a good look at a variety of things: procrastination, distractions, a true counting of hours that you've spent on a project. You'll see if you're truly overworked or if you have time to take on more. Does your role on a project need to be as involved as the team thought when it started? Are you focusing on priorities of your job or spending too much time on minutia? How much time are you spending away from your family because you keep answering emails and messages at night instead of watching a movie with your kids? And this also exposes the ebb and flow of your productivity. What you've got to understand is that this image right here is a finished week. That calendar has been adjusted, sometimes on an hourly basis, but it tells you a lot about how that week went. When I look at this calendar, the first thing I notice is that there isn't much green. Does this mean that I ignored my contracts? Not really. I also see a lot of light purple, which means I had a major volunteer project, and I did, the Momentum Conference. So I knew I had a day and a half committed to helping my friend April at Momentum, and I would have had little time for other things. On a normal week though, if I'm looking at deadlines and I see that I simply haven't given the time to a project, I know I need to adjust my schedule and make sure I give time to finishing something. Also, because I know that spending time with my friends and family is important to me, when I get a little grumpy, it's easy to look at the week and realize, no wonder I'm cranky. I've not spent any quality time with my friends this week, or maybe I didn't exercise as often as I liked, or spending time with the kids. Every week I look and say, I didn't stitch this week. And, cross stitching is one of my favorite hobbies, and I haven't been able to spend as much time doing it as I like. So back to my week and how it starts. These are all the meetings, plans, and pre-schedule items. As we all know, the best laid plans of mice and men. As you can see, the week continually evolves. I know how crazy this looks, and many people I know first look at my calendar, like I said, and wonder if I've lost my marbles. But you have to remember that, that this crazy, colorful week is after the fact. It's what actually happens, not what I schedule to happen. Life is crazy and colorful, and this is life, and this is your data. I also know it seems like a lot of work, but to be honest, I probably spend maybe 15 minutes a day total doing this, which really isn't that much of an investment when you think about it. One of the byproducts I never saw coming from this, by going in and tracking this information, it gives my brain permission to move on to the next task. Think about it. If your sign of being done is to make a note that you did it, taking 30 seconds to open your calendar and make a note, whether the time block or the information within the time block, it gives your brain the cue to move on to the next thing. It's your palate cleanser. It's your amuse-bouche, if we want to get all fancy about it. So how does your work day end? So this time blocking and time tracking event actually gives you a cue to end your day. You add up the project hours and note them. I use all day events with codes for each project. I calculate Sunday to Saturday, and Saturday actually has the week's totals listed. For me, Saturday is the day I'm least likely to have a full schedule. And it's also the day I'm most likely to have chunks of time to literally do nothing. So after calculating the data for the day, I add it to my weekly totals. So at any given moment, I can tell how much or how little time I'm devoting to a project. These numbers, however, are often greater than the sum of their parts. For example, if I have a block for an hour for one project and I have to insert a phone call, I do double count that 15 minutes. If something is more than a 15-minute block, then I break up the time blocks. And it reminds you when multitasking is good, like listening to an audiobook while driving between errands, that's personal and educational time. And when it's bad, getting interrupted multiple times while working on a project, having to stay 30 minutes late to get it wrapped up. So since iCal syncs to my phone, it's also easy for me to log a phone call with a friend, which are great reminders to answer the question, so when was the last time I talked to that person? Or an hour of reading before bed. So the spreadsheets. Usually on Mondays, it's when I start getting ready to plan for the week. I update the data from my calendar into a spreadsheet. That is a ton of columns, but keep in mind that I have recurring projects that only happen annually or quarterly. They still need to be tracked, but I may not fill anything in on those columns until they happen, which is also a great reminder for planning the next year that, oh, look, that event happens in November, but I don't actually start working on it until September. Then I know to plan accordingly as things fluctuate throughout the year. But how do you tell if you're on track? So I keep an hours and percentage tracker per bucket. Although I do calculate the week based on in my opinion, of course, the outdated factory work week of 8-hour days and 40-hour weeks. I know that those fluctuate. Some weeks I work 20 to 30 hours, others I work 50 or more. Tracking this time, I learned to accept the ebbs and flows of how I work. And to be honest, this has really, really helped me since we went on quarantine. You can see here, I'm tracking to have a similar year to last year. My volunteer time is likely to be down, but that's because I've not devoted the couple hundred hours to one of my regular projects. But I will be restarting that project later this summer, so I'm sure my calendar is going to kind of blow up a little bit after this. So everybody knows I love a good pun. So time tracking in the time of Corona. Now you have two great puns. So because I've been doing this for so long, you would think that my transition to this COVID-induced crazy would have been easy. As much as I'd like to say it has, it hasn't. But it's given me permission to be a little bit easier on myself, to make adjustments, to know when I just need to step away from the desk and move to another room before I either bust into tears or take a nap to try and sleep the uncomfortableness away. So what you'll notice is that I began making a conscious effort to invest time in my mental health. You can kind of see this from the increase. This is March and April, and you can kind of see when everything starts going up. So the wellness, I've always counted chores as wellness, because when you think about it, it contributes to your wellness that the kitchen doesn't smell like rotting food because you've taken the garbage out or washed the dishes. Plus, if you get wellness credit for your chores, it might make you feel a little better. Now, though, I force myself to take a break for lunch and tally it under wellness, because I know that taking that 30-minute break in another room ensures that I don't snap on a coworker or family member, because it's so easy to simply continue working when your life is happening in a single location. So education, definitely have more time to read, but I'm also taking a class at the end of the month that I'm really excited about. So I'm making sure I have the time to prepare for the class rather than cram it all in the night before. As you know, I think we all do a little bit of. Personal time. I'm being incredibly deliberate about my errands now that it is planning for the time and energy to wipe down steering wheels and doorknobs, wash your hands a few extra 100 times, and make sure there's my mask with me the time I have to wait in line to get into Publix. But now also, I kind of feel like these errands are like field trips from elementary school. I get really excited if I have to go to the grocery store, because I get in my car and I get to go somewhere that is not the same view and the same walls and the same things that I see every day. And probably the most important thing is family and friends. One of the benefits of the way these quarantine schedules are now is we have to plan for video calls with our friends and figure out when it's going to happen. I've been doing virtual happy hours. I do Zoom calls instead of phone calls. I do watch parties. I stumbled on this great show. It turned out a really good friend of mine was also watching it. We never even talked about it. And now when it comes on Monday nights, because we can't binge it because it's on regular TV, we get on Zoom and we watch the show together, you know, and this is a great way to make sure that you're staying in touch, especially with those close friends who I think we often call our family by choice, because those are the people who are going to help keep us sane while we're going through all of this. So this is now almost a 2-year streak. It's close to my flow-free game streak when I play it, that I play every morning. You know, I've learned quite a bit about how I work, when I do my best work, and how that varies by location, because I'm very location-based when I work. So I go to the gym, I don't work out at home. And then I have an office for my day job. And then I go to Forge and work on my projects. And that physical transition has been my mental transition normally. And now I have to rely more heavily on this calendar for my mental transitions. So one of the things that, or some of the things that I learned, these are my practical applications. I've learned what I think is important, because just because people say it's important doesn't mean you think it's important. So when you're looking at how much time you're spending on something, you kind of learn what you really think is important. You learn what you need to focus on, what you need more of, and probably what you need a little less of. I've been able to adjust and pivot a lot easier because I can stop. I have a stop and a start. It has created some structure, and despite the fact that we all think that we like to run free and, oh, wouldn't it be great to sit on the beach and do nothing? Humans thrive under structure, and I've learned that I can be a lot more creative under a structure rather than just a free form. Yes, I'm creative on my days that I'm bored and I'm sitting in the recliner watching John Wick yet again, because I think there's always a John Wick movie on at any given time of day. But then I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm not working. I'm not staring at my computer. And I have some of my best ideas doing nothing. I've also learned that wellness isn't just exercising, going to the doctor. It is taking that time. It is taking the garbage out. It is making sure the recycling's done. It's washing the dishes. It's changing your sheets. I'm the kind of person who, I couldn't tell you the last time I changed my sheets. I know that sounds terrible. It's not what I mean. But I also know that it's in my calendar. And if I'm worried that I haven't changed my sheets in a while, I can look. It hasn't happened. I've been changing them regularly, but it's good to know that I know exactly when I did something, or changed the recycling filter, or the filters in the refrigerator for the water and things like that. And then it's just scheduling time for what you need to do, whether it is, I need to set aside 2 hours to go to the bank and pick up this prescription and do this and do this and do this. And you just block it out and say, okay, these are errands I have to run during normal business hours. So if I do that, I know where I can move my time to later on and make sure that I'm still giving time to my projects. So my practical applications and lessons are about done. We are ready for questions, but one of the things before Kim jumps in that I want y'all to think about is take a piece of paper and write down your 2 columns, work and life, like I did. You saw the 2 columns and what goes in there. Even that simple step makes everything else so much easier and makes you really look at how things are falling into place. Okay.
Rebecca, that was amazing.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
I will stop sharing my screen for right now.
Okay. I wish I didn't even think to take a screenshot of that calendar, but I am super duper impressed. So if y'all have any questions, just drop them in the Q&A or the chat. It doesn't really matter. But I thought of I thought of one question and then another thing that you need to share, and maybe the question will help you share it.
Okay.
But so how do you actually logistically, when you get a phone call in the middle or somebody walks up to you and asks you to think about another project, how do you track that and make a note of it and keep it? How do you even remember?
So, okay, let me go back to sharing my screen.
Okay.
I do my best to do it right after the conversation is done, because that is the time, like if you're making a note, sometimes I write it down because I'm a big writer with my notebooks. But let me go back. Don't get seasick when I flip through real quick. So what you can see here is I had to probably take a call or answer an email for Donna at Maranathan. And I still had to concentrate on what I was doing at Momentum, but I took a moment to make sure that happened. So I stopped, I put it in there, and then I went on. If I have to go back, it's really easy. Your phone calls on your phone are time-stamped, and you get the duration. Your text messages are time-stamped. If you pull it to the left, I think it is, you can find out when that happened. And I've done that before too. It's like, oh my gosh, when did I answer that email? Because I didn't have time to put it in. So it's become second nature to me. And I think once you start practicing and really realizing how important this information is for you to track and to be able to understand. Like down here, you can see I was having social time with my friends when I had to take a call for a project. So I stepped out, I took the call, and then I came back in and enjoyed time with my friends. That was actually the last day I went out to dinner in Birmingham.
Where'd y'all go?
Oven Bird.
Oh, good.
So, and
like in that example, when you got home, did you change it, or did you go right in on your calendar on your phone before you went in and added it in? What did you do?
So that one, because we were at the Lumbar and there were cocktails involved. When I hung up the phone, before I went back in to join my friends, I went ahead and noted it.
Okay.
I mean, it's maybe 20 seconds. 30 seconds. It's really quick. And when you start doing this, then you're like, okay, let me stop that so I can get this in here, and then I keep going. But you can see, like, if that momentum conference had been a project rather than volunteer work, that's almost an hour I got interrupted.
Yeah.
For things. Not that they weren't important. They were important. They had to do with my day job, actually. So I had to answer questions and text messages and emails and things like that. But, if I'd taken that hour away, would I have had to work? That's a little different because it's conference. But would I have had to stay an extra hour to finish that project because it needed to be done? And looking at that helps you a lot. And I really think that being honest with yourself, if you're switching tasks and having to do stuff like that, you really are working double time at that moment. And if your brain is working the equivalent of 50 hours, but you did it in 45, then you've got to really look at how you're spending your time. Okay.
Oh, a couple questions popping up. One is, how do you handle meeting requests? Do you share your availability through a calendar app like Calendly, or do you only give specific available hours? That's a good one.
Actually, both. So I do use Calendly, and I have a paid subscription to Calendly, and I have it set to where I cannot schedule back-to-back meetings. That there's a 30-minute buffer in between any meeting, so that shows up as unavailable. And I have days blocked off where I don't take meetings, and I have time. So I make sure I put the time in on the front end on Calendly to make sure that there were times people could not schedule.
Okay. Next question. What project management tools do you use, and how do you merge the two?
Well, I actually don't.
Oh.
I use Asana at work. We just literally started using Asana. So I've been taking a lot of Asana webinars.
Yes.
I really like Asana, and I would like to use it more. But I have relied a lot on spreadsheets because I've been, in the workforce for the last 30 years. And when computers came out, you tracked everything on a spreadsheet. So my default is always a spreadsheet. But I also, within all of those calendar blocks, if you open them up, you have a notes function, and I will put in there, what did I do today? I checked email, I updated the calendar, because updating the Tech Birmingham calendar takes a minute. So, all of the little things that I did for different things are in the notes section. So you don't see the notes section at all.
Right.
When you look at the general calendar, you just see the blocks. But you can put the Zoom links in there. I can put stuff that I need to make a note. You can add a reminder in there, things like that. So it took me a while to discover that iCal has a pretty robust functionality, and so does Google Calendar. You can do the same things on Google Calendar. I'm not saying use iCal because I use it because I have a MacBook and I have an Apple Watch and I have an iPhone. So it's easy for me to have that sync, but my Google Calendar for work syncs to my phone as well. So a lot of these things can be applied to the tools that you use every day, and not necessarily have to go buy a new tool or learn a new tool.
Do you feel like, I mean, I know with Tech Birmingham, it's a team, but do you feel like project management tools are more effective, like if you're working with a team where you're tracking lots of different things as opposed to just projects on your own?
Yes, I do find them to be incredibly useful. We used a couple of different tools at TEDx Birmingham. And I plan an annual house party with some friends of mine, and we use Asana boards to plan the party.
That's amazing.
And we have a Slack channel, and we have all of these amazing tools. And even there's an app that will help, that everybody puts in how much they spent, and then you split up to where if you owe somebody something for their part, or if you're spending and their part of your spending and your part of their spending match, then you don't owe them anything. It divides it all up. I'm just like, this is the most amazing thing ever.
That is amazing. Because I've been on the end of calculating what everybody spent, what everybody owes.
I will send you that, because I shout out to Miller Gervin. She's the one who brought that into this project, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And it literally ties in with Venmo, so you can do it all through that. It's called Splitwise, and you can do it all through that app. But think about if you're doing a big volunteer project that you're getting reimbursed for, you can use a tool like Splitwise, and it's a free app. You don't have to pay. I'm all about the free if I can help it, even though I will spend money on a planner.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more question right now. Do you ever have to just ignore calls and emails to get your current task done? Yeah, and then talk about email management.
Oh, I totally have to ignore calls. I've already set my iPhone to, there's a thing that if it's a call that's not in your phone book, if it's a number, which are usually all those, hey, I can lower your credit card rate, or do you need insurance? You can send them straight to voicemail. So I have that set because I was constantly, and since my phone also rings on my watch, it was this constant interruption, whether I was looking at my phone or not. My wrist is vibrating. So I did that, and I've looked at the phone and went, I cannot deal with that right now, and put the phone back down and gone straight back to working. I think we've all done it. So yeah, I definitely do. And I try and be careful. I'm big on compartmentalizing my email. So I have an email for all my Red Thread projects. I have a Tech Birmingham email. I have a TEDx Birmingham alias that feeds into a Gmail account. I have a Gmail account that is just garbage emails. That's, oh, sign up for this to get this free download. Well, yeah, I want the download. I need the download information, but I don't need you to send me a million emails all the time. So I have one email address for all of that. That way, if I ever think, oh, I wonder what's going on. So I'll look at Christina's answering for me. Yes, I use it. So yeah, I compartmentalize my email quite a bit. And I've eased up on alerts on my email. I really, really have. And because it's so distracting when your wrist is vibrating, I would rather my wrist vibrate and tell me to get up and walk around than to be like, you have another email, you have another text message, you have another this, you have another that.
Yeah.
But it also, I can look at my watch and go, oh, I don't need to check that text message, or that's who I've been waiting for. I know I need to stop and go look.
Yeah. Yeah, I had turned off all of my email alerts because I feel like it's just not urgent. You know, I mean, I still check my email, but just the pinging and the flashing is, so distracting. Okay, you haven't shown us your pins. You have to show everybody your pins.
So, with all the colors on my calendar, I was trying to figure out how I can have that visual representation, because I need a paper planner. I need to write. I can't just deal electronically. So I bought these markers.
Show us your planner too. Do you have your planner right there with you?
I have it right here. I purposely have it set. I'm a former Girl Scout. I'm prepared. So these are my markers, and anyone at Forge has seen these markers on the table that I am almost 90% of the time sitting at. And I find that the color lifts my mood, and I also don't have to wonder where what I've scheduled in my planner coincides with my calendar. So this is the good, here we are. This is the good busy. And I am the kind of person who I need
Can you show us the front? Show the front.
Actually, it's just
just plain old black.
Yeah, it's just, and it's got the good busy embossed. Okay. I've literally found this because of an Instagram ad. That's how I found the Good Busy planner. And one of the things that I absolutely love, it has a section to set an intention for the week. Like I had a not so awesome mental health week last week. I think we're all doing that. So I set the intention for this week to be positivity. So I'm trying to keep myself positive this week. It has a section on the top, and you write in the dates. So you don't have, I started this planner in October. You know, you can, it's gratitude or focus or remember. So yesterday my remember was this too will end, because I have to believe that. It has a section for you to set your priorities and have a master task list, so you can move things over to different days during the week. It has, you can set a reward for yourself. So you know that if you do things, you can check off that you rewarded yourself. And then it has secondary tasks, notes. It has a place where you can write in the best thing from today, but for whatever reason, I never do it. It's got a habit tracker, which is kind of nice. So I have certain things that I want to make sure are habits. And that's one of the things I kind of restarted during this quarantine, is I'd gotten away from my meditation habit. So now it's literally in my calendar, and I've been trying to keep up with it. It's been 3 weeks. I'm not doing too bad. It's done a lot for my mental health, definitely. But there's also, I got away from tracking my water intake, and I haven't been drinking as much water. And one of the good things about A, wanting to drink more water, and B, not wanting to sit as much, you have to get up to get your water. So you can kind of do the two birds thing and help reinforce your two habits at the same time. One of the things I really like is there's a section on here that is do more of and do less of. So I always pick 3 things. Like for this week is do more of walking, stitching, and being mindful. Do less of sitting, moping, because I got mopey last week, and stressing, because I think we're all just, am I getting everything done? Am I not? Because everything's so fluid. And then you can schedule appointments, which the colors match my calendar. But instead of like a normal calendar that gives you the whole day, you only get about 7 slots. So it really makes you look at I've got something at 10 and 11. That's not a good thing, so I have to be careful with that. Or if you have only 7 slots and you've already filled 6 of them, even if you have the time, maybe you shouldn't schedule something for that empty block of time. So yeah, I love my good busy. I can't say enough. I mean, I wish they were paying me, because I would be a spokesperson in a heartbeat. I'd even fill for a
Mary,
free planner.
Mary just said, "You're amazing. Do you sleep?" That's what we're all wondering.
Actually, I do. And what I found fascinating is doing this, I get more done in less time.
Mm-hmm.
I a 42-hour work week is actually the exception, not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the colors and you saw everything that goes on in my calendar. And I have found that I work less, that I am a little more careful on taking on projects, and I'm more efficient with my time. So if I say I need 2 hours to do this, I'm going to cram as much in that 2-hour block as I can. But then that block says I have to stop. So I have to go in, note everything I did, if I'm not noting it as I finish the tasks. And then my brain says, okay, you're done with that blue block. Now you can go on to something purple or something green, or and that visual representation really makes you be like, wow, am I really getting all that done? Because folks in Forge always, it's like, you're involved in everything. How do you do it all? I'm like, this is how I do it all.
Oh, I'm muted. I said, that's amazing. Okay, before we end, I do want you to tell people what you told me. I don't know if it was on your slideshow, about what you are so graciously offering.
Oh, yes, we didn't get to that slide.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and I'm not going to put it back up, but
Okay.
we'll send an email out after to
Yeah.
everybody. But I am offering a free 15-minute consult if you want to talk about how you can adapt or start something like this, because this is perfect for me, but it's adaptable, that you can make it your own perfect. So that's what I think with the planners and everything is, we think, oh my gosh, this is going to be the perfect answer. And it's not. And it took me a year of realizing, so if I can help you do you and your perfect a little bit better, I think that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Thank you so much. Well, if there are no more questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I am totally inspired, and I know that everybody else is. Rebecca, thank you so much. Yes. And we are recording this. And so, yeah, my recording just panicked that the recording button was not on, but it's on. Okay. Yeah. So we will follow up with email. We will give you access to this recording again if you want to go back and look at your slides and be like, okay, wait, how does she do this? So we will definitely do that. We'd love for you to share it with others, because this is super helpful. So thank you, Rebecca. Thank you to everyone who attended. And we do actually have a few more. We have another webinar scheduled for next week. And I want to make sure I get the title correct. But it's with Russell Hooks, who is a member at Forge as well. And he also, he runs Happenings in the Ham. So he is sharing with us next week, social distancing brings social media opportunity. So we are really looking forward to this. It is next Wednesday at 10:30 as well. So Russell runs an amazing social media account where he really highlights things that are going on in the city, and how you can be involved and things. He just is a great advocate for the city, but he has really done most of his, he's done a lot through social media. So he is going to share with us how, even though during COVID-19, we can still use this as an opportunity to grow your business and your social media presence. So we will also include in the follow-up email a link for you to register for that. So as always, we are happy for you to share that. And if you have any topics,
shout out, Russell is amazing. And if you think about it, Happenings in the Ham is all about being social and being with people and being out in the community. And they've had to completely pivot their social media.
Yeah.
So, and he's my business partner in one of my new things.
Oh yeah. See, Rebecca does it all. I totally forgot about that one. Yes. So we can't, she's not kidding at Forge. We cannot keep up with all that she's doing and that she does so well. So we would love for y'all to attend that as well, but we will provide all the information you need to be able to sign up. So thank y'all for attending today. Oh, I was going to say one last thing. We want to provide relevant information for you during this time, things that you think would help your business grow. So if you have any ideas or topics that you would like for us to cover, feel free to email us those ideas just at info@workatforge.com. We'd love your input and we want to really help you. So just let us know what we can do. So thank y'all so much for coming today. And we really can't wait to see you in person. But for now, these webinars will do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.